Guest video: Tommy McHugh. Tommy McHugh was born in 1949 in Birkenhead, UK. He was, until he died, a painter, a sculptor, and a poet. But for his first 51 years, he was none of these things and was instead a criminal, a heroin taker, and a street fighter, with the smashed knuckles and missing finger to prove this. Then at 51, Tommy McHugh had a massive stroke which unleashed creative compulsion. According to the two neuroscientists who studied his case, Alice Flaherty from Harvard Medical School and Professor Mark Lithgow from University College London, creative compulsion is a rare neurological condition which gives an individual an unstoppable urge to create. Search for Savant, Tommy McHugh. About Tommy McHugh up to his stroke. Tommy was born in 1949 in Birkenhead. He had 8 brothers and 3 sisters and left school at 14. He was in and out of borstalls and prison between the ages of 15 and 21. In fact, Tommy admits that he led what he calls a violent life, with a long history of heroin addiction. Birkenhead is on the Wirral Peninsula, along the west bank of the River Mersey, opposite Liverpool. It expanded greatly as a consequence of the Industrial Revolution. Shipbuilding started in 1829 and an ironworks to serve it was established by William Laird. The shipbuilding firm grew into Camel Laird. A port and docks also developed in the area. And at one time its docks handled cargo from all over the world. But the area was bombed heavily during World War II. And docks, houses and factories were all affected. And thus by the time Tommy was born, the town was in significant decline. Even in February 2010, the town had an overall male unemployment rate of 12.4%. as against a national average of 4.4%. As such, life in Birkenhead was not easy and was more familiar to street fighters, whose everyday existence was based on simply surviving. And Tommy was one of these people, brought up to defend himself with his knuckles, do construction work, and engage in petty crime to obtain money and food. And Tommy McHugh had no interest in art, except for the tattoos that covered his arms. Tommy after the stroke. People like Tommy needed to be always on their guard, which is why a knock on the door of the toilet he was in may have triggered the stroke he had. The flight or fight response can result in the sort of increase in blood pressure that caused his hemorrhage, and the severing of an artery in frontal and temporal lobes. He collapsed, was taken to hospital, and was in a coma for a week. When he woke, he was a different man. And 10 days later, Tommy returned home with a woman they said was my wife. He recalls, "I didn't know much about who I was or what I was. And I was talking in relentless rhymes. Everything was a rhyme." Unable to understand him, his ex-wife, who was caring for him at the time, gave Tommy a pen and paper and asked him to write down what he meant. Tommy recalls, "I started writing poetry and rhymes about what I was experiencing. The personalities I was living with at the time were revolving like a chamber in a gun." Then Tommy began to draw pencil sketches and felt tip drawings in the hundreds. It was as if the ideas came so thick and fast he could hardly keep up with them. Tommy recalled, "I'll paint 3 or 6 or 9 pictures at a time. I see those numbers in my head all the time." But canvases became too costly, so he started painting the ceilings and the wallpaper and the floor, an unrelenting flood of ideas. He covered every surface he could. Eventually his house was covered in paintings, and expression of all these ideas became a compulsion. His first wife left him to it. Tommy said, "Give me a mountain and I'll turn it into a profile. If you give me a bare tree, I'll change it. So when spring come, all the leaves will create the face, the mouth, the lips, without hurting the tree." And time suddenly seemed to have lost its meaning too. "I'd spend 10 hours doing a mural on a wall thinking it was only 10 seconds, he said. And then he started on sculptures made out of anything he could get. Or was given to him to carve, wood, or stone, or anything. Marion Kalmus, international artist and artist-in-residence at the Institute of Child Health. He'll make things out of anything. If you sit him in a room, he'll be making something out of a paper cup while you are talking to him, she said. It's not that it gave him tremendous technical abilities, he's not become Leonardo da Vinci or anything like that. And perhaps equally important is that Tommy has had a personality change. He now says he is in touch with his feminine side, as is happier now. "I like what I'm being, what I am. I'm happy being the Tommy I am now, not the Tommy people remember." What happened to his mind? If we look at the model of the mind, Tommy started to get spiritual input from his higher spirit to his symbolic, feminine side, his subconscious. But as Tommy's conscious self had spent its whole time working out ways to survive, all this input had been ignored before. Once his masculine self had been subdued by the stroke, the flood of input could get through. Tommy's death. Tommy died on the 19th of September 2012 from cancer of the liver. He was just 62. He left one former wife and his then current wife, Frances Passman, his partner of 8 years, as well as 2 children, a son and daughter, and 2 grandchildren. But before his death, McHugh said that his strokes had given him 11 years of a magnificent adventure that nobody could have expected.